I'm really excited to have Ben here from Accept.Blue. We've been working with Ben for a few years now. He was the first person I was introduced to when we first started working with them, and he is a wizard at this stuff. So we're pretty excited actually to have him on here today to show us Accept.Blue and everything that it's doing. So Ben, I'll hand it off to you and just let me know if you need any permissions or to share anything.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Vinny, and thank you everybody that is joining the call today. I know everybody's busy, everybody's time is precious. So I appreciate you taking the time to learn more about this gateway, the Vivid Gateway, the Accept.Blue Vivid Gateway. Um, I want to show you today some of the more recent features that we've rolled out, but I'm also going to be going over some of the best sellers, the features that have withstood the test of time, and that we get consistent feedback on. That this is what helps agents like yourselves sell and retain merchants and improve their bottom line. So we're going to be covering a little bit of the new and a little bit of the old today as well. I want to talk just for a minute before I even share my screen and start looking at the actual product. I just want to talk for a minute about what this Vivid Gateway is. So it's a platform designed for pretty much all merchants. I should say not all, but a very wide spectrum of merchants. I'm going to go through some verticals or industries that are a particularly good fit for this gateway. So you have something to keep in mind when you're targeting merchants. You say, oh, the Vivid Gateway, the Acceptable Vivid Gateway is a perfect fit for this type of merchant because X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to go through a few categories and then we'll actually share screen and go through the actual product. So the first is B2B. When we first launched a couple of years ago, that was like our big deal. Card not present in general, but B2B in particular, and that has remained one of our key focuses. Um, you know, throughout the years and up to and including today. Why is the Vivid Gateway such a good fit for B2B merchants? So again, who are B2B merchants? Merchants that are doing business with other businesses. So when you're talking about B2C merchants, people that have shops on Main Street doing business with consumers, that's one type of merchant. But then you have people that don't work out of a storefront. They're working out of offices, out of industrial parks. They're doing business with other merchants. Those are B2B merchants. And those type of merchants are a great fit for this gateway, primarily because of something called level 2 or 3 interchange optimization, which I'm going to talk more about once we actually share screen. Another reason is ACH and some other features that we'll look at. So B2B, meaning the bigger merchants, enterprise level merchants, integrations is another reason why they're a good fit. And we'll spend a little bit more time talking about those throughout the webinar today. But B2B is one vertical that we're going to be talking about a lot. Professional services is another. So think about, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, landscapers, freelancers, insurance agents, lawyers, anybody operating out of offices or doing on-site jobs rather than operating out of a brick and mortar storefront. Those are another particularly good fit for the gateway. The cool thing about this vertical is that everybody comes into contact with these type of merchants all the time. It's just part of our lives. So having a great product that you can instantly demo should be really fun for you guys. Another couple that I'll mention is nonprofits, and when we say nonprofit, we don't necessarily mean charities, but of course charities, organizations, camps, schools, your local chapter of this and that. All of those will benefit from features like recurring payments from hosted payment pages. So that's something else that you should be keeping in mind. E-commerce, of course, we have a couple of different shopping carts for people selling stuff online. And then we have the last one I'll mention before screen sharing is hybrid merchants. So when we talk about hybrid merchants, we mean merchants that need a solution that encompasses both a card not present ability, so the ability to take payments over the phone or using stored customers, and at the same time they want to have the ability to take in-person payments. A classic example of this is car dealerships. We have thousands of car dealerships on our platform for the reason that we're able to give them a easy virtual terminal that they can use to take card not present payments and have a connected EMV terminal that takes in-person payments with everything appearing in their same reports. So for these type of merchants, having an all-in-one solution with all-in-one reporting can be very, very valuable. So, I've mentioned a couple of different verticals. To make it really simple, the gateway is a really good fit for anyone except for those reliant on POS systems or primarily in a retail environment, running a lot of transactions in an in-person environment. those there are probably better products for than this particular gateway. But in card not present, hybrid merchants, those type of environments, this would be an absolutely fantastic fit. And I'll explain more as we go through different features how these play into some of these verticals that we've mentioned. Vinny, so far so good.
Yeah, that's great information. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, let's go ahead and share my screen. I'm gonna work out of my own Sandbox account. It's just simpler for me. But as hopefully many of you know, the Vivid Gateway is actually completely white labeled. So as far as your merchants are concerned, they're seeing, they're seeing the Vivid brand, the Vivid logo, all that good stuff. They're not seeing anything about Accept.Blue. Um, do you guys see where it says dashboard? Is that the correct screen being shared?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're gonna go through this gateway account. I'm not gonna go through all the different details. That's not the objective of today, but I do want to highlight some of the most important parts. So we're gonna start right here on the dashboard. Let me just move my video away so I can really stay focused here. Perfect. All right, we're gonna start here on the dashboard, which is where your merchants will get a basic overview of what's happening in their account. Let me just log on and log back in because I'm in the wrong account. Uh, right, that should be better. Yeah. Okay. They have a light theme and a dark theme. I know that when it comes to gateways, people usually talk about features and functionality and different stuff like that. And all that's great. And we're definitely going to showing that. But something I want to point out is just the user interface, the fact that it's clean, it's modern, it's intuitive. For us, that has always been a focus. This is our third facelift in just over 5 years, because we know it's important for merchants to not get overwhelmed by a lot of buttons and a lot of different workflows. So I think your merchants will definitely appreciate the fact that you're giving them a virtual terminal that's both packed with different features and functions, but at the same time, pleasing to the eye, easy to navigate, intuitive. So don't lose sight of that as part of your sales pitch as well. Let's go to the process transaction uh, page, which is where your merchants can process card, ACH, and or terminal transactions, meaning an EMV terminal, depending on what this account is set up with. So let's go ahead and process a basic card transaction. I don't really know how to do a demo without running a single transaction. That's sort of uh, that's sort of how it works. So let's go ahead and put in that customer. Something else to keep in mind is the surcharge option. So every ISO, including Vivid, I'm sure has their different rules and processes around surcharge. But it's good for you to know that as far as the gateway is concerned, there's a lot of options on the table, from compliance surcharge to dual pricing to convenience fees. All those are options that you can enable for your merchants. So if that need comes up, make sure to take a look at that. We can go ahead and just process this transaction right now. I'm going to point out some optional sections over here. One is custom fields, another is transaction details. Both of them give the merchant the ability to add more information to a transaction. So, we see this being used a lot, of course, in the B2B space where they might have a lot of information for each transaction. We see it being used in the healthcare space where they might have a lot of information that they need to add to a transaction. And in the custom fields, they can add up to 20 custom fields with their own labels. So there's really, almost no limit to the amount of information that could be stored on a single transaction. Billing and shipping information, self-explanatory, and then a recurring payment, super easy to set up. You check that off, you fill that out, and a recurring schedule is created when we process this transaction. Let's go ahead and process that, and we'll get an approved message, the ability to print, email the receipt, or just click on done. So it's that simple. That was a basic card transaction. I want to talk for a minute about level 2 and 3, which we briefly mentioned before the screen share. But now that we've run a transaction, let's spend another minute on that. So the transaction I just ran was a basic card transaction, card number, expiration, zip. You saw that I didn't add any additional details to that transaction. However, had it been in a live environment, sandbox, what would actually be sent to the processor, 20 plus fields of additional information to help this transaction qualify for the lowest possible interchange rate. So what does that mean? When it comes to transactions, specifically interchange, the cost of running a credit card transaction, there are three levels. And I'm sorry, many of you are probably very familiar with this, but for those that aren't, it's really important to get a good understanding. So there's level one, which is basic transactions, just card number, expiration, nothing special. Level two is more information, things like invoice number, and then level three will get even more detailed and includes things like SKUs, descriptions, products, commodity codes, all that good stuff. And the higher the level is, meaning the more information that the processor receives from the gateway on a transaction, the more they're incentivized to lower their interchange rates. They say, you give us more data, we'll give you lower interchange. That's the way it works. Now, not all transactions qualify for programs, specifically B2B or business to government transactions that qualify. But for those that do qualify, we're talking about savings of potentially well over a full percent on qualifying transactions. So if you have a B2B merchant that is running qualifying transactions that are eligible for lowered interchange rates, then giving them a technology, a gateway that will automate all that data being sent to the processor, like the Vivid Gateway does. We automatically send all that extra data to the processor, is obviously a game changer because your merchant will just be running regular transactions, not have to add any additional data, but the gateway will send all that extra information to the processor, and in exchange, your merchant automatically gets lower interchange rates, no additional work necessary. So when we talk about how the Vivid Gateway is a great fit for B2B merchants, this is the chief reason. There are other reasons, but the biggest reason is this level two and three. You approach a B2B merchant that's currently not enjoying the benefits of level two and three, and you tell them we can just by switching to our technology lower your interchange rates really significantly. That's a slam dunk sale right there. So that's something that you should definitely keep in mind, again, especially in the B2B space where there's a lot of qualifying transactions, but really with any merchant that runs any sort of any number of B2B transactions, it's only something that they're going to gain from. So definitely a big selling point right there. Uh, let's look at the terminal tab because I know this is, not necessarily new for our system, but still fairly new as compared to the card not present function. So when it comes to running EMV transactions, we work with a company called Equinox Payments. Those are the terminals that we work with. And you can run an EMV, your merchant can run an EMV transaction one of two ways. Either they come here into the gateway, they select a customer, they enter an amount, and then they hit submit transaction. Excuse me. That'll light up the connected terminal, and the customer completes the transaction on that terminal. There's another way they can run this transaction by not being logged into the gateway at all and just running a direct sale directly from the terminal, and then those transactions appear automatically in the gateway. That's what we call standalone. The terminals need to be configured to be in standalone mode, but that gives you the option to run a sale directly from the terminal without initiating the transaction. Okay. That covers two of the main things I wanted to cover, which is level two and three and EMV terminals, just a basic overview. Let's take a look. The next thing I want to cover is invoices, but Vinny, tell me if I'm doing okay so far and if
Looking
I'm
great, man. Thank you.
looking
Yeah.
good. Okay. Let's move ahead to the invoices. Now, invoices is a feature that the Vivid Gateway has had, for a long time, but it's consistently delivered like really impressive results in terms of getting merchants to come on board, really filling a lot of pain points in specific industries. So I definitely want to spend a minute going through what invoices looks like. So invoices is the ability for the merchant to send out an invoice via either email, text message, or both to the customer. Customer gets the invoice, they see the invoice details, they enter their payment information and pay off the invoice. So in essence, what it is an easy way for the merchant to collect payments from customers while looking professional, while not touching that card data, so they don't have to worry about any of that. And it ends up speeding up the process of getting paid because once the customer gets a link, it's easy to make that payment. They click on the link to enter the payment information, and they're done with that. So let's look at creating an actual invoice. I'm going to select a customer. Once this invoice is sent out, what the customer will see has the merchant's logo, their company information. We'll go ahead and I can enter a new product. I'm going to choose a product because I know everybody's time is precious. So we're just going to save time by selecting products that I've already stored in my inventory page. And I'm going to go ahead and just click on send. You can play around, but I'm just going to go ahead and click on send. where I'm going to get this pop-up where I can enter one or more email addresses, one or more cell phone numbers. I can attach anything I want to, and then when I'm ready, I just click on send. I'll click on send, that invoice will be sent out, and then I'll be able to track that invoice from right here, my invoice page. I can see that my status right now is sent. Once my customer clicks on the link, it'll go to viewed, and then hopefully it goes to paid or it'll go to overdue, whatever the case may be. And of course, there are multiple actions I could take on the invoice once I've sent it out. So that's how easy it is to create an invoice. That's how easy it is for your merchants to get paid. So going back to what we spoke about right in the beginning of this webinar, we were talking about how this is a good fit for service professionals. This is one of the main reasons it's such a good fit. If you tell your plumber who's just come to fix something in your house, you say, by the way, instead of me mailing you a check or all the old-fashioned ways, look how easy it would be for you to send out an invoice. This is what we're talking about. This helps agents like yourselves close deals all the time. Let's look at customers and recurring. So in the customer vault, your merchants can store all their customers, and then for each customer, they've got something called wallet, which stores all their payment methods. They can have as many stored credit cards or checks for a single customer. They can see the history of a card, mark one as the default, and they'll basically see every piece of data associated with a customer right here in this vault. Now, a lot of merchants use stored cards to process payments for their customers. The customer card, they'll store it here. It's tokenized. It's completely secure. Everything in the gateway is PCI level 1 compliant. And then the merchant can, at any time, bring up that card and run that transaction. It's especially important for merchants running recurring transactions. So when you think about merchants that run on subscription payments, like schools, camps, gyms, any sort of merchant that has subscription payments across customers, obviously having that stored card on file is crucial because that's how these recurring payments run by using that stored card and running that payment every week or every month, whatever it is. Now, not one of them. The newest feature we've just released is called Card Updater. So I want to spend a minute talking about that. We're very excited about it. We're getting a lot of great feedback about it. So I think it's important for everyone to have that information. So what is Card Updater? So all credit cards, as we know, expire at a certain amount of time, a certain number of years. A lot of credit cards get replaced even before they expire for whatever reason. It got lost. It got 10 different reasons why a credit card would need to be updated. Now, without a feature called Card Updater, when a card expires or gets updated for any reason, then and then the merchant tries to take that card and run a transaction for the customer, the transaction will decline because that's no longer a valid card. What the merchant needs to do in that case is have someone reach out to the customer, explain to them that the card declined, and hopefully get a new card and then try that transaction again. Now, obviously, that's precious resources for the merchant. Having someone reach out to the customer, chase the customer for a new card, obviously that's valuable for the merchant. Another thing is that there's always the risk that they'll lose the subscription payments, right? I not long ago had this story where I had signed my kids up for they have these like subscription book boxes where like you'll have this company sends you like certain books on certain topics every month or something like that. And we were getting them for a few months, and then my card, I guess, expired, and it was just declining. And the company kept on sending me these emails, your card declined, your card declined. And I'm like, you know what? My kids are not even reading these books. I'm not even going to bother updating my subscription. And I let it fail, and that was the end of that. Now, so the same thing by a merchant if they have a gym and they have to reach out to their customer to get that new card, the guy will say, I haven't even been in the gym in 6 months. Why am I even paying for this subscription, right? So there's always that, besides the resources that are needed to keep cards updated, there's always the risk that the merchant will lose out on very valuable subscription payments. With Card Updater, none of that is a problem because basically what the gateway does is communicate with the card issuer, and every month we check, are there cards that need to be updated? Are there cards in our system for this merchant that have expired or have been replaced for any reason? If the card issuer tells us yes, they'll send us the new information and we'll just update those cards automatically. The merchant has nothing that they need to do to get those new card details. The same card will be stored in their wallet It'll just have a new expiration date, new number, whatever the update is, and those subscription payments will just keep on running as usual. So you can see how this is really big value add for any merchant using stored cards, and particularly for merchants that rely on subscription payments, because instead of having to constantly manually update those payments, everything just happens automatically. We'll always give them those new update information. They don't even have to be aware of it. Everything will just keep running as usual. Okay, that covers the next two topics that I wanted to spend on, which is invoicing and card updated with recurring payments. There are two more pieces over here that I want to cover, and those are payment pages and integrations. So let's start with payment pages, and then we'll move on to integrations. Um, Vinny, I see there's a couple of things in the chat. I'm assuming we leave those for the end. You tell me if we want to take a
Yeah,
minute to
that's
look at.
fine.
Okay. So
That's all
let's
good.
look at payment pages. Um, and with payment pages, I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start backwards. I'll show you what a completed payment page looks like, and then we'll see what it takes to actually build a payment page. So give me just 1 second while I bring up some examples here. Here. Okay, this is one typical payment page. So first of all, what is a payment page? Payment page is an open, accessible payment page to anyone that has access to the internet and has the link to the payment page, where a merchant can direct their customers to come and make a payment. Typically, payment pages will be fairly open, meaning they're not going to have any pre-filled information. They'll just collect like customer information. A lot of times they just leave the amount field blank, and customer comes here, fills that out, and makes a payment. Typically, these pages will this link the merchant will take the link, put it under a pay now button on their website, or under, if it's a nonprofit, let's say a donate now button on their website. And this way they can just simply direct customers to their site or to the link, and they come here, they fill out their information, and they make payment. Um, so this is a little bit different than invoicing. Invoicing was a specific invoice to a specific customer for a specific amount. Once that invoice is paid, that link expires. This is a link that doesn't expire. It stays up, stays accessible for anyone that has access to it, and it becomes a very versatile way for the merchant to collect payments on customers. So, some of the other features we said, level 2 and 3, more for B2B invoices, more for professional services. With payment pages, what we're seeing is really across the spectrum adoption. Like we've seen it being used in the B2B space, in professional services. A lot of merchants find this to be a solution that fills a lot of the cracks in their otherwise, in their payment solutions, giving them this link that they could just constantly use whenever they need, turns out to be something that they find very valuable. So this is a typical payment page. You can see it's got an amount, it's got a fee for credit, not for check. By the way, your gateway supports both Apple Pay and Google Pay, so those would be options as well if the account is configured with that, besides for credit card and check. And of course, they can make a payment. Let's look at another page over here. This is a sample for a nonprofit. So it's got things like a donor name, it's got things like recurring supports. I can make a recurring donation, good stuff like that. And then here's a third example. This is, we'll call this a payment page, but technically it's not really a payment page. It's not even taking any payments from the customer. What it does is allow the merchant to direct the customer to this page where the customer fills out their information and their credit card information, but then doesn't make any payments. They just store it they just click on save, and that will save the credit card and the customer profile in the gateway so that the merchant can, at a later time, bring up that profile, bring up that credit card, and run a transaction for this customer. So it's just a secure way to store customer profiles and customer payment methods on file for later billing. Now, we've looked at 3 samples over here. They all look different. They're all styled different, but they're all actually built using the same exact builder in the merchant's account. So I'll show you what it's like to actually build a payment page. We're gonna put a name. We're gonna write Vivid Webinar. We're gonna make that the slug as well. So in case it would be more like pay.vividgateway.com / the merchant name. And we'll go ahead and select an action. So a typical payment page will be on charge. If you want to just save the customer, you'll just click Save Customer. and we'll use our light theme on our standard vertical template. We're going to click on save. We're going to be taken into Builder that looks like this. Now, you don't need to be a coder, a designer, developer, nothing of that sort to, build out beautiful payment pages for your merchants. It's all drag and drop. It's all built with non-technical people in mind. So I'll show you one or two, samples, but we encourage all our ISOs to play around in a sandbox account, get comfortable with this, because once you do play around with it a little bit, you'll be creating these pages, payment pages in no time, and you can make them look beautiful and customized exactly the way your merchants want it. So I'm going to click here on my description field where I can require it. I'm just going to delete it entirely. Then I'm going to go to my block section over here on the right side, click on basic fields, find that description field, and drag and drop it onto the page. And there's my description field. That's how easy it is. That's how it works with every field, from customer information to amounts to search. Everything is just drag and drop. And then once you're done, with the fields that you want on the page, you can move ahead to the styling section over here on the right side and change everything from the coloring to the logos to the links to the shadows to the borders to make the page look and feel exactly the way the merchant wants it to look and feel. Like I said, I want to be respectful of everybody's time over here. So we're not gonna go through all those different customizations. We're gonna go click on save and exit, which will save our page. And we're just gonna click on that link and we'll be taken to our new payment page, which the merchant can then put on their website, send out in emails, basically just give their customers an easy way to make payments. So that's payment pages. The last thing I wanted to talk about was integrations. So let's spend a minute or two there, and then we'll take a look at those questions. So integrations is something that's a little bit scary for for some sales professionals out there. But my job here today is to try to take away some of that fear. So a lot of opportunities that are out there today are in the integrated or embedded pay space. And what do we mean by that? So you have one type of merchant that just needs a virtual terminal to take payments, like the one that we're in right now. You'll have another merchant that just needs an EMV physical terminal to take payments. All that's great. That's, fairly easy. Then you have merchants that you approach them and say, I'd like to be your payment processor. And the merchant says, no problem, but I do everything out of XYZ software. I do it out of QuickBooks. I do it out of Acumatica, out of Salesforce, NetSuite. That's where, if you can get me payments inside that software, then we can talk. So that's when we talk about integrated or embedded payments, payments that are coming from an integrated software, not directly from a payment tool like a virtual terminal or an EMV terminal, payments coming from some other software, but a software that has an integrated gateway like the Vivid Gateway so that merchants can take payments, record payments in that software, and have those payments run through their gateway account. So one of the cool things about Vivid Gateway is that we have a long list of integrations to some of the most popular softwares that merchants out there are using today. You can see the full list on our website, which is Accept.Blue. It's not .com, it's just Accept.Blue. There's a tab there called integrations. You can download a sheet of all our integrated softwares today, and we're always adding more. So make sure you check back every once in a while. And amongst those integrations, you'll see some of the most popular ones like Sage, Acumatica, Microsoft Dynamics, NetSuite, Salesforce, QuickBooks. They're all great softwares that often merchants are using. And the common denominator is that you can tell them you're using QuickBooks to run your business, you're using Salesforce to run your business, no problem. I've got a plugin, I've got a way to bring payments into that software and give you benefits like level 2 and 3 and reduce costs and whatever it is, great service, all those things that you bring to the table. Uh, so instead of sort of throwing up your hands when you hear something like NetSuite or Salesforce because it sounds just too techy and too complex, realize that it might be a little bit of a bigger process, obviously, because we need to get that plugin, we need to install the plugin, but ultimately those merchants are very valuable. They're usually running, a nice amount of business through those softwares. They're stickier merchants because you're giving them embedded payments in their software. So the opportunities are well worth that it takes to get that payments in place. So not going to go to all the different softwares where we have integrated. Again, check them out on our website. Contact us for any information. But just keep that in mind when you're out there. that just because a merchant is working out of some software doesn't mean that you guys are locked out of, processing payments for that merchant. Um, that's really what I want to, that's what I had in mind to cover today. If there's something else that, people would like to hear about, I'm more than happy to spend some more time. But those are the sort of my check boxes that I wanted to cover.
Thanks, Ben. That's awesome. And these are exactly what I wanted you to cover too. I actually had a client this morning who's actually on the call today, and you hit it right in the nose. So thank you for that demonstration. Do you have a few minutes to go over a couple questions?
Absolutely.
Awesome. We can start with Keith. Is there an added cost to account update? Also, did you say it updates monthly or more often?
Okay, so it updates monthly because the most common reason for an update is expiration date, which is by month. So we check once a month with the card issuers. There is an added cost. Vinny, should I go through the costs? I know some. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
our
okay. Just
costs are the same. That's
sure.
totally fine. Yep.
Yeah. So we actually have two different models when it comes to card updater. The first one is if Vivid just enrolls their entire portfolio in a card updater, meaning all merchants, current, new merchants automatically get enrolled in card updater. In that case, in that model, the additional cost is 25 cents per update. You don't pay any additional monthly fees, but the merchant will bill the ISO 25 cents per update that happens across the accounts. The second model, which is where only select merchants are enrolled, right? Only specific merchants get enrolled in Card Updater. In that model, you'll pay the 25 cents per update, but you're also going to pay $10 additionally for every mid that's enrolled in Card Updater. So, assuming you're going to be enrolling select merchants, you're looking at an additional $10 plus 25 cents per update.
Awesome. And then Don had asked when a recurring. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yep, I see. Don had asked when a recurring invoice is created, let's say there are 10 recurring payments over 10 weeks. If the customer cancels after five, how does the system handle the last five invoices?
Yeah, so first of all, just to clarify, invoices are not recurring, meaning invoices are you send out an invoice one by one. If you're talking about just creating recurring payments, so if you set up a recurring schedule that has, 10 recurrings, and then the customer decides to cancel, the merchant just navigates to their recurring tab, finds that recurring schedule, and just clicks turn off. It's as simple as that.
Awesome. And then who sets up the gateway to populate extended data to get level two, level three?
The internal Vivid team is trained that when they board merchants, they know how to configure those accounts to, have the gateway automatically send that information.
Yeah, Keith. So on that question, just request it, and it's something we can do internally. It's not a problem at all. And then Eric had asked for account card updater. Is this only once a month, or are there options for manual check if a charge fails or other frequency?
It's automatics and it's only once a month.
And then for payment page creation management, did I understand correctly that would be agent managed versus the client building managing?
Well, both options are on the table. It's really up to you if you want to give your merchant access to that. Um, you can display that payment page tab there, and then the merchant can create them on their own, or you can create them and hide access from the merchant. So it's really up to you if you want to create them or you want to give your merchant that ability.
Awesome. And then any plans on a WooCommerce plugin?
We have two WooCommerce plugins. So check out our website. You'll see the links there. You'll be taken to the marketplace where you can just get those plugins.
Awesome. And the question was about L2, L3 guys. So just if you need that, just put in a ticket through the Vivid dashboard. We'll set that up for you. We do it with terminals, we do it with gateways. However you guys need that set up, it's always an option for us. And we highly encourage it, especially if you're doing B2B. I'm guys, I can open it up. You're welcome to unmute yourselves and ask any questions. That's it in the chat. So feel free to, while we still have Ben for a few minutes, ask away. And if not, Ben, thank you so much.
Vinny, you think I put them all to sleep? Is that what happened?
No, this is a lot of great questions, and this is what it's my favorite gateway to use. We use it with All Set currently. We're launching that right now. It's been great for us, and I have one of my merchants being loaded up on it today. So we're pretty excited about that.
Amazing.
One question, if I may, real quickly.
Yeah, of
Go
course.
ahead.
Yeah, this is Keith. I've encountered this in the past where someone is coming from a different gateway. What is your experience with that? Will the old gateways share customer data, or basically do you have to recreate?
So our experience is that the vast majority of gateways will send the data to the new gateway. I think the only gateway we've really had trouble with is perhaps you say ePay or EPN. I don't recall one of those two. But all the other ones send us data all the time. Keep in mind that in most cases, the exporting gateway, the gateway that's sending out their data, will charge the merchant or the ISO for that export. The importing gateway almost never will, including in Vivid's case, we won't charge to facilitate that transfer into our gateway, but the gateway that's sending out that data often has a fee for that process.
Here.
Thanks, Keith. And Jen had asked if there's any downside to setting up L2, L3. Typically, no, Jen, there's never any downside. The only downside I can think of is if it is card not present. And like Ben mentioned, you do have to add extra fields. So if it's in an environment where, you want it to be a little easier for the merchant, it's not going to really make a difference. You you don't want to put in all the extra fields. That may be the only time it doesn't benefit the merchant, but you can certainly do it. For any B2B. I think there are different classifications for businesses that can do it and stuff on terminals and stuff, but you're welcome to always ask our support team when we launch anything or deploy anything if it can be enabled. The only time it would not be able to be enabled, some hardware doesn't allow it, or just doesn't have the fields. Some gateways don't have the fields. Obviously, Accept.Blue does, so definitely utilize it. Awesome. Well, Ben, thank you so much for this, guys. Ben, you're amazing. That was a really good demo.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm going to send this out to everybody. I recorded it, so I'll send out this so you can send it to your teams, and just reach out to partners@hellovivid.com if you guys have any follow-up questions. Ben, thank you again, and we'll be in touch.